I'm going to continue on with the data that we entered in the last video, looking at the weight of vehicles versus their miles per gallon. And if we go back to stat and we look at the data, I've entered this highlighted data into L3 and L4. L3 is the weight, L4 is the miles per gallon. And we had graphed it, and we have something that looks like this. And this is the weight on the bottom. So as the weight increases, and the vertical axis is miles per gallon, as the weight increases, the miles per gallon decrease, which is something that you would expect. Now we want to see what type of a line equation this would make. So we're going to go to stat, and we're going to go do a test on stat, and it's called a linear regression t-test. We can arrow down here, but it's at and this list keeps on going on to another page, and the answer is toward the bottom, so I'm going to arrow up, which puts me at the bottom of the list, and then arrow up a little bit. We want linear regression t-test, and we're going to hit enter on that. And we want to make sure we're choosing our X list, which is the weights, which is in L3, the Y list, which is the miles per gallon, which is in Y4. And if yours are in different places, you need to choose them there. And then after you do those, go down, and there's a beta and I think that's it's not a P, it's actually a row. We want to make sure it's not equal to 0. If one of these other things are flashing, we need to change that. So make sure it's not equal to 0. We don't deal with this at all, but just make sure it's not equal to 0. And then we go down and we hit calculate. When we calculate, it will give us data about how good of a line we have. So it's telling us that it's going to give us information about the line y equals a plus bx, a being the y-intercept and b being the slope. One of the values we're going to look at a little bit is the p. This is 8, and the e to the negative 5 means times 10 to the negative 5. So this is a very small number. It's actually 0.00008. It's got 4 zeros before the 8. Very small number. What we're often interested in is the intercept and the slope. So we could write these numbers down and actually plot a line on the graph that would show that it kind of goes near these buttons. And I'll show you how to do that. The other thing we want to see is the regression coefficient. And we've got a regression coefficient of negative 0.96. So this number is very close to a negative 1. That means this is actually a very good, this data represents a line pretty good, especially since it looks like a line. And the probability being a very small number also tells us this is probably a good line. I'm going to note these numbers, and I'm going to show you how to enter this equation to plot also here. So we've got the number 66.7 and negative 0.0124. I'm going to use those numbers, and I'm going to go to the y equals 2 button. And here's a place we can enter in an equation. Y equals 66.7 minus 0.0124x. And we get the x with this button up here that says x, t, and some other things. And now that's an equation that's going to be plotted in here. If we go ahead and hit graph, it's going to draw a line, and there's the line, and you can say those points are all pretty close to the line. We can use this line to predict values. If we know weights, we can predict miles per gallon, and that's what we use regression for, is prediction.